Battle for Dream Island Again 5B, or BFDIA 5B, is a game that I really like to speedrun. When you hear the word speedrunning, a game like Super Mario 64 probably comes to mind. Super Mario 64 has a huge speedrunning scene and is known for some of its incredible world record stories. But beyond the best players and the fastest runs in the game, there are so many incredible runners, unbelievable runs that didn't get the attention they deserved, and scientists finding new strategies behind the scenes. I'm starting with Super Mario 64 here just because the speedrunning community is probably the most popular in gaming. Meanwhile, I speedrun a Flash game from 2013 that was made by one guy in 2 weeks.
But it's an innocent game. Why would anything like this ever have anything resembling a speedrunning scene?
Let me show you. Battle for Dream Island Again 5B is actually an incredible game to speedrun and has an equally incredible speedrun history behind it. This is the BFDIA 5B Speedrun Iceberg. If you aren't familiar with BFDIA 5B, it was made by Kerry Huang, the creator of the Battle for Dream Island series on YouTube, along with his twin brother Michael. You start with a character named Book. Makes sense? You later meet Match and have to control both of them at the same time, and you later meet one more character named Ice Cube. So speaking of ice, what is the Iceberg? This Iceberg covers not only the most obscure stories in 5B speedrunning, but also some of the most interesting. So the farther down that we get, the more crazy or shocking the stories will become. But for now, we're gonna start at the top. The current world record speedrun to beat the game as quickly as possible, also known as any percent, sits at 8 minutes and 29 seconds, set by a very handsome guy. I didn't actually upload this run to my main channel because I wasn't very happy with it for some reason. So if you want to watch it, there's a link in the description. But as for the speedrun itself, it has recently become very difficult, with the majority of levels having at least one difficult trick somewhere. But there is one level, more than any other, that has been particularly difficult since the genesis of 5B speedrunning. The 29th level in the game, Don't Look Back, is the hardest level in the game for a speedrunner at any level. Playing for the first time? Good luck with these pits. They require way more technical ability than everything you've done so far. Just starting to speedrun? You're gonna want to do this. Have fun with that jump. Ooh, you're getting better at speedrunning? Try this new strategy to beat the level Deathless, saving lots of time but tripling the difficulty. Oh yeah, and remember that helping hand we had with this jump earlier? Now you gotta do that jump without it. Oh, you're really good now. Try this even faster way to do it. Wait, what happened? Oh, was I not supposed to talk about that yet? Oops. But anyway, this level right here in the middle of the speedrun is without a doubt the most notorious level in the speedrun. After level 29, you find shelter in a nice little house. And then you get deceived and thrown in a dungeon. Then you escape the dungeon, meet our friend Ice Cube, and then continue your journey all together. But then, following a climactic race against this intimidating spiked wall on level 52, we face this, a wall that's too high to climb over. And as we can see by this text block, we aren't supposed to progress any farther. We've met our maker. Level 53 is not beatable, so the timing of the speedrun ends as soon as you complete the last beatable level in the game, which is level 52. A little bit awkward, but it works out. So remember what I mentioned earlier? Meanwhile, I speedrun a Flash game. Flash is dead. Flash support ended on browsers on January 12th, 2021, colloquially known as the darkest day in Flash history. As such, all avid Flash game enjoyers had to find refuge under the standalone Flash player, which was great for those with the technical understanding of setting it up. Sadly, not everyone can manage that, and 5B speedrunning was put under serious jeopardy. Thankfully, the user Coppersalts came to the rescue. She ported 5B to HTML5, thus giving it the iconic name HTML5B, not only making the game accessible for everyone again, but also allowing the decade-old game to receive updates, including the long-awaited level creator that is entirely community-driven. If you want to start speedrunning 5B today, HTML5B is the place to be. Link in the description. Tool-assisted speedrunning, or TASing, is the use of software to create speedruns that show what is theoretically possible in the game. One of the easiest softwares to use for TAS is called Cheat Engine. Bad name, cheating is bad. Which has a feature that allows you to play the game in slow motion. In 2020, View2 showed that with Cheat Engine, that the game was beatable in just 7 minutes and 15 seconds, which at the time was less than half of the world record. A few years later, Coppersalts was able to create a much more powerful TAS software using HTML5B and made it available for everyone. Just like that, everybody could make a TAS of BFDIA 5B. So what time has a TAS proven is possible? 4 minutes, 18 seconds. Okay, so many of the strategies in this are impossible for a human to pull off, and that's kind of the point of a TAS, but these show that a much faster time is theoretically possible. There's still a lot of 5B history left to be written. Now we're under the water. This stuff is a bit more obscure. BFDIA 5B was released in early 2013, and by June, it had its first speedrunner, famous BFDI content creator CatYJ8. Live streamed on Google Plus Hangouts, yeah, we're going way back here. He achieved a time of 1 hour and 51 minutes.
And I'm done.
Okay, but see, this run wasn't meant to be specifically a speed run. In fact, Cat defined this as a speed challenge. He had an extra goal in mind. This is a win token, an extra collectible in the BFDI series, and also an extra collectible in 5B. They're a fun challenge to get, but they are not required to beat the game. Part of CatYJ8's speed challenge was to collect as many as possible while still beating the game quickly. So the 1 hour 51 minute time to beat the game is certainly slow, but it's not entirely representative of CatYJ8's skill level. But back to the win tokens, what happens if we speedrun the game while collecting every single one? You get a new speedrun category. This one's called 100%. It's mostly similar to any percent, except now literally every level is harder. But this does allow for some really cool new strategies. For example, level 12, called Pillar 2, is a much more interesting level to save time on in 100%. The any percent route here is very simple, but getting the win token requires taking a long, treacherous detour. The current world record in this category, set by myself, collects every win token in 14 minutes and 39 seconds. It's held for a few years, but it's definitely the weaker of the two full game records, so if you're gonna go for one, try going for this one first. Following CatYJ8's first ever any percent speedrun, numerous others would hold the record, but no one would dedicate the time to push the time as low as they could get it. That is, until this person arrived. Before Mr. Twister was a TWOW finalist or Object Show event organizer, they were the genesis of modern 5B speedrunning. Mr. would get the first ever sub half hour time on November 2nd, 2018. In the next 3 months, they would lower it 14 times, the most by any individual ever. The time of 1740 would stand totally uncontested for over a year and is one of the most famous runs to date. Mr. Twister would achieve their final world record in 2020 with a time of 15 minutes and 12 seconds, half of the time when Mr. started playing. The one to beat Meester's final record of 15:12 is named Antladders, an avid speedrunner of other Flash games made by Carrie Huang. This was done with a run of 14 minutes and 58 seconds. The first ever sub 15, but not by much. We've come to expect this. Records have been getting incrementally smaller, and the last time a record has been beaten by more than 69 seconds was before the sub 20. That is, until Ant uncorked this.
That's good. Wow. Wow. This is just really, really fast. This is what happens when you just focus on new strats for a while and don't do any runs. You just beat your world record by like a minute. Jeez Louise. My God, that's fast.
This run changed everything. The modern era began, where you could no longer rely solely on faster movement to get a record, with faster strategies taking precedence instead. To date, Ant's 1332 is the most viewed world record 5B speedrun. Very well deserved, but it isn't the most viewed 5B speedrun ever. If we bend the rules a bit, then that would be this. In 2016, before the inevitable dominance of Mr. Twister, content creator Dunkel used Cheat Engine to make a 100% task that finished with a time of 22 minutes and 56 seconds. Today, the run itself is not particularly impressive, for all the real-time world record is 8 minutes faster, but the video is notable because it has a staggering 120,000 views, an incredible amount, even before anyone was running the game seriously. This is my best speedrun of all time, but not everyone knows the background behind the run, so let's talk about that here. Entering 2021, Antladders' 1332 was still the world record, but I started playing and I wanted the record. So did Ant! Thus began the biggest rivalry in 5b's speedrunning history, which saw the record drop 13 times and by 2.5 minutes. But suddenly, a sub 10 seemed to be a distant possibility. And then, in December 2021, it all came together with one of my biggest flukes of all time. Yes! The first ever 5b speedrun in under 10 minutes, and the biggest drop to the record since Ant's 1332. This run would stand as the record for the next 3 years, only being beaten this January after the discovery of some infamous tricks and glitches included. Oh, right. We'll get there soon. But again, enormous shout out to Antladders for his desire to push the limits of the game. Without him, this speedrun would not have happened. An individual level speedrun, or an IL, is a run that shows how quickly you can beat just a single level in the game. 5b has loads of them, and they're extremely competitive. But it's hard to argue that the GOAT of ILs to this date is not a player named Fabretti. Fabretti came out of nowhere and set his first world record very suddenly in early 2022 in level 41. But then he took another one, and another one. And within a few months, Fabretti had the most IL world records just with stronger execution, but also with revolutionary strategies. Today, the IL leaderboard is more diverse than ever, yet the person with the most IL world records is still Fabretti. He's cracked! On to the next layer, and here we can find the most popular 5b speedrunning trick that I'm sure everyone has been waiting for. The most infamous trick in the game, grab boosting. I covered exactly how this mechanic works in a previous video, but the summary is that if you start by holding match with book and throw match, there is a teeny tiny window where you can switch to match and grab book while match is still in the air. You can also do it the other way around. It's possible to repeat this while both characters are airborne, thus creating a chain and essentially allowing the characters to start flying. It's commonly called a glitch, but everything going on here is completely intended by the game. It's just about abusing the crap out of them. Doing a single one of these is easy for most people and is called a mini grab boost. It still allows you to gain more height than is possible normally, allowing for some faster strategies to be used in some levels, including this one that I wanted to mention earlier in level 29. Fitting these together though required very fast finger speeds and was reserved for tasks, and a human pulling them off for any duration was a very rare skill. Fabretti was one of the people with this ability. Very recently, after remapping keys became allowed in the rules, grab boost chains became far more accessible, allowing even my slow fingers to perform them in my 80% records. The extremely popular flash game speedrunner Maximum has taken grab boost with key remappings and absolutely mastered them. But don't get it twisted, they're still really hard even with key remappings. And just for the record, grab boosting with Ice Cube is possible, but it's still a task-only strat. You may have noticed this time in the corner of the menu screen. This is in-game time. We sadly can't use it for full game runs for one reason. It only counts from when you last reset the stage. You could have spent 10 minutes in a level, but if you reset after 9 minutes, the timer would still only increment by 1 minute. But this behavior does make it really useful for IL runs, since as long as you know what the time was before entering the stage, you can reset however much you want, and only the successful attempt will be recorded. But yeah, for full game runs, it's only accurate if you never reset. Good luck with that. Phantom Infinity is a relatively unknown player with pretty much a single contribution, but it's a notable one. Level 8, a friend, has this spiky death trap up here that is very hard to speedrun. To date, this is the easiest known way to get through here quickly. But way back in early 2019 during Meester's dominance, Phantom found this. In an era where fast strategies were not looked into heavily, this was by far the hardest trick in the game. Multiple near-frame perfect inputs were foreign to the game at the time, and this run of 13 seconds flat would eventually become the longest untied record of any of the game's 52 any% ILs. Quite the contribution for someone so unknown. Alongside grab boosts, this is the other exploit that the average viewer has probably seen before. Copper Salt's discovered on Pi Day of 2022 that it's possible to clip through the left side of a wall from any height using positioning that is less than 1/100th the width of a pixel. No, I'm not kidding. Okay, but can humans achieve that kind of precision? Yes, soon after she found a bunch of different setups for it that are completely possible for humans. They're all frame perfect, but it's like, hey, I think that's a fair trade-off. But these setups led to very large skips being found that, among many other things, allowed for the long-standing 951 any% record to finally be beaten. But the seasoned of you might know that there's an even more famous use for this wall clip. Remember how I said level 53 isn't beatable earlier? Well, that was a lie. It wasn't meant to be beatable, but it turns out it is. But there's way too much lore to explain about the level here. Go and watch my full video about it to learn about all of that. It's quite the story. So let's talk about the implications for speedrunning specifically. Because the level is beatable, does that mean we should extend the any% and 100% categories to include it as well? Well, no, because then all previous speedruns would become obsolete. And come on, the run is already as hard enough as it is, and adding this level would make it hardly accessible for most people. Instead, we just made some new categories. One called any% plus for any%, and another one called 100 point blah 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 for 100% as a tribute to Dunkel's video. The current individual level record is 13 seconds by me, which gets all of the major tricks first try. If I remember correctly, it took like 4 hours of attempts to get this run. So yeah, very hard. But it is maybe possible to save a little bit of time by performing a faster version of the wall clip setup. But that would make the level even harder, and I'm just gonna let someone else do that. I'm good. Clover Drop is one of the OGs. While Meester was number 1 in the world with their dominant 1740, Clover Drop was actually number 2. And today, Clover Drop holds a 17-minute time of their own. What's notable here is Clover Drop's contribution to the Deathless Challenge, which is largely adjacent to speedrunning because if you're going fast, you're usually dying less. Again, there's a ton of lore here that I'm not going to cover, so go see my entire video on that if you want to learn more. But what's notable here is that Clover found a way to shave 3 deaths off of one of the most difficult levels in the challenge, level 27. Spoiler warning. So assuming you've seen the video, you know that level 26 is the only level not beatable deathless by a human, requiring 2 deaths. And that's where the video left off. However, Clover Drop found very recently, in fact, that there actually is a consistent way to beat the level in just 1 death. By throwing the HPRCs in a precise way, it is completely possible here for Book to skip the laser. These contributions are revolutionary for the speedrunning science in 5B, especially for a relatively unknown and definitely underappreciated player. Johnson Jensen Jason, or JJJ for short, is one of the best players in the game, currently 2nd place on the any% leaderboard, just ahead of Ant Ladders. But despite that, the video still has less than 100 views, which is ridiculous for a run of this caliber. Go watch the vid and give it a like. Right now, I'll wait. But JJJ has been around for a while. Back in early 2021, he took the ILs by storm, breaking many of the mid-game records in particular. Without a doubt, a very underrated player. Now, let's talk about one of the best things in speedrunning. Money! I've hosted 2 bounties for this game, with a total prize pool of a bit more than $100. Not crazy, but it's something. The rules were different for each competition, but in some way, the goal was to get the fastest any% time possible. And here are the results for each one. But I had a lot of fun doing these, and I hope to be able to do another one sometime soon. I really want to increase the size of the bounty for next time though, and something that would really assist with that is if this video performed well. So go ahead, drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe if you really want, and we'll make it happen. On to the next layer. We're almost at the bottom now, and if you've heard of these, I'd be seriously impressed. So remember that rivalry between myself and Ant Ladders? Let's take a closer look at a moment during that. I got a time of 11:32 on May 24th. It was a new world record, beating Ant Ladders by 19 seconds. And just 2 days later, Ant fires back, also getting an 11:32. So is it a record or not? My record was originally retimed to 11:32.53. The run ends right after the screen flashes after completing level 52. So what does Ant's timer read when the screen flashes? 11:32.53. Wait, did we tie? Due to the differences in video, it was hard to actually compare these runs, and no one knew which one was faster for several days. But eventually, it was concluded that my time was 11:32.33, and Ant's time was 11:32.42, just 5 frames apart. So even though Ant's time wasn't officially a record, it's definitely an important one to remember, and Ant would end up undisputably breaking this record 6 days later. But surely it can't get any closer than this, right? Right? Anyway, let's talk about level 20, the first stage after we meet Match. The way to beat it is to flick this lever on the left and then go to the door on the right, all while avoiding this spiked on a timed cycle. For a long time, this was thought to be the fastest way to beat the stage. Pretty tight, but still consistent enough to do in full runs. But then, all the way in 2025, I found that it's actually possible to squeeze another half cycle out by doing this.
Oh, yes. 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 Yes.
It's too complicated to break down here, but just know that this is my best IL speedrun ever, and one of the hardest strategies in the game when it comes to technical ability. But let's not be ridiculous. This is still way harder to do. On the topic of very, very difficult strategies, this is level 34. Normally, you would want to flick this switch and come all the way back around to this opening here. But take a look at this hole. You're supposed to just grab the win token here and bounce back out, but it's tempting to assume that it's possible to escape the trampoline and access the HPRC. Is it really? As it turns out, yes, it is, but barely. Actually, calling this left input precise is a huge understatement. Not only is this left input frame perfect, but to accelerate quickly enough to get past the ceiling spike, your starting position needs to be as far to the right as possible. There's a reason this strategy is called Dungeon Degen. When I got it for the first time, it was only after half an hour straight of attempts. Today though, an even faster strategy exists thanks to wall clips that is still extremely difficult, but that doesn't even come close to the absurdity of this trick here. To date, Dungeon Degen is the least consistent trick in the game, since still no setup exists for it. We've discussed Beaster Tweester's dominant reign over the 5B world record that ultimately resulted in the 1740 record that stood for over a year. But the one who eventually broke that record is a bit more mysterious. Mythical Rocket, yes, the same one who has been unofficially crowned as the world's fastest typer, broke the world record twice with a 1711 and then achieving a time of 1634 on May 20th, 2020. The exact date of that first run is unknown. Footage for both of them has since been lost, but they both had footage at some point. Rocket would come back in 2023 to compete in My Bounty, eventually getting a recorded sub 13 and even an unrecorded 1207, placing him third in the world at that time. Pretty legendary 5B history from an unlikely source that has largely been forgotten. So we now know about wall clips, but what if we could clip into the ground? On July 15th, 2023, Copper Salts was working on a 100% task and found an interesting new strategy to save a little bit of time in level 41. Did you see it? One more time. They're going through the top of the semi-solid platform. This is known as a floor clip. It essentially works because while a character is being held, collision with the semi-solid platform is not handled and they can just go through. Gross oversimplification. So yeah, it's a cool party trick, but barely known because it only saves a couple frames in this very specific scenario. That is until this was found in level 22. Not only did this strategy become by far the fastest way to beat the level for a task, but it actually was humanly possible and saved 9 seconds over the next fastest human viable strategy. And lo and behold, this floor clip became the newest big time save to feature in a world record speedrun. This is level 1. Hold right, jump a few times, and you win. What if I told you 2 people had this IL record, and there was a 13-way tie for second? And remember, ILs only used to be timed down to the 10th of a second. How do 2 people save so much time over everyone else on a level where you just hold right? Quite a few of these situations existed actually, particularly with the runner Princess Celestia. Level 2 was particularly interesting though, because Minox's record here stood untied for years. Not even the task could replicate the times that they were getting. What's going on here? The most likely issue is that their computers were running abnormally quickly, so their game was playing a bit faster, but their timer was the same. As such, these untied world records stood for a very long time until a rule change was made to correct any time faster than the confirmed fastest possible time with tasks. Much better. We have reached the bottom of the iceberg. These stories are the ones that are the most interesting, yet also the most obscure in 5B speedrunning. Remember Ant's run that was short of the world record by only 5 frames? 5 entire frames? Imagine it was just 1 frame. And instead of a record that was just a footnote of the most active record era in the game, the record was short of the longest standing world record in the game's history. That would be really, really, really funny, wouldn't it? Yeah, that's exactly what happened with this run.
No! No. Yep, you're right. It is exactly 1 frame.
This is quite literally as bad as it gets. There are very few runs in all of speedrunning that come this close to breaking the world record. But thankfully, I got my redemption a few days later. But dude, come on. As Fabretti was tearing up the IL leaderboard in mid-2022, and we first saw his unique ability to chain very long grab boost chains, he submitted this video, at the time the longest grab boost chain ever performed by a human. Keep in mind that he's mashing up over 10 times a second here with perfect Z-press placements in between. It almost seemed too good to be true. But then we noticed something that we'd never seen before. This light on the door is supposed to fade straight to green, but here it turns off in the middle. Is this run spliced? As it turns out, probably not. We asked Fabretti to upload high-proof footage of him playing level 41, grab boosts and all, and it all seemed completely fine. Eventually, he beat the run by over a second anyway, this time without any funny door behavior. To date, we've never been able to explain the door situation, but the whole thing has since been forgotten, and we believe Fabretti is a legit player. But I never forget! Alright, we have one more story to talk about, and this one might be my favorite of all. 5b's history is incredibly storied, with many speedrunners coming in and changing the game. Despite that though, the most active era in 5b speedrunning is actually right now. 2025 has seen more new players than any other year in the past, and some of them are getting really good. Pilly Fangirl, who's also a really good Osumania player, has been crushing the ILs lately and is almost in the any percent top 3. Bluefan77 and Flower BFDIA are also crushing the ILs right now with some of the best technical proficiency we've seen yet. Nadabiv came out of nowhere and crushed the level 5 IL, one of the most competitive in the game. Even It's Maximum, the most popular Flash speedrunner in the world, revolutionized what was possible with key remapping. And this is just new players that have broken world records. There are even more I haven't mentioned. But yeah, the young talent in the game is extremely potent. The IL leaderboard is more diverse than ever. And honestly, if you want to start running the game, there has never been a better time. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video. Did you expect the iceberg to be this deep? Was there anything you found particularly surprising or exciting? Then leave a comment. I respond to most of them. And if you want to see more, go and subscribe. If you don't want to see more, subscribe anyway. You can unsubscribe at any time you want. All right, thank you for watching, guys. Until the next one.